What was the scariest glitch in the Matrix you've seen? Redditor 1. When I was a kid, we had a huge backyard that opened up into a large forest. I was playing out in the yard one afternoon with my dog when I saw my mom in the distance, looking at me from behind one of the trees. She started calling out to me and waving for me to come to her. I was confused, but started going towards her. Once I got halfway to her, my dog started growling, whining, and pulling on my pants. Something didn't feel right, so I turned around and looked at my house. There I could see my mom making dinner in the kitchen window. All I remember after that is sprinting as fast as I could back to the house. Redditor 2. At 14 I walked past my mother reading a book at the breakfast table. I stepped out the kitchen door into the garage. As I opened the door I looked up at the clock. It was 11:10 a.m. I stepped out, the door closed. I then remembered something I forgot to take with me. I stepped back into the house. Mother was not at the table and the clock read 4:25 p.m. I called for her and she came from the den. I asked how long was I gone. She told me that she didn't know but to clean up and help with dinner. Redditor 3. Cars where I live only use numbers on their license plate. Was walking to work one day and randomly wondered who has the plate 007. Then a few seconds later an Aston Martin drives past with the plate 007. Redditor 4. I remember that when I was 10 I went to school and in class we had lesson about some World War II stuff, nothing out of the ordinary, but the scary thing was that this repeated for 3 more days and I was the only one that noticed. Literally everything was the same. Close words, timings, everything. I was literally stuck in 4-day loop. At first I thought this was a dream, but the date keep changing. Every time I think about this I wonder if it was just my school or did the whole world kept repeating and if someone else noticed. Redditor 5. Well, I sensed something behind me, turned around and saw me a couple seconds in the past for a split second. This happened twice, in the same area. Redditor 6. Sometime during the first week of 7th grade I met this girl Daisy, fake name. Well, we had never met before and our families didn't know each other or anything. In fact, she had just moved to my city from another place before school started and had never visited here before. There was absolutely no connection. And for some reason we both knew each other. And not like, oh you look familiar, but like we could recite each other's birthday, favorite color and other random facts that there was no way we could have known because we had only just met. It was so weird and neither of us to this day can figure out how we knew each other before even meeting. Redditor 7. My roommate cleaning up the apartment once. I legit thought of going back to sleep so that I could wake up to the reality, but that had just really happened. Redditor 8. I was hanging out with my friends in my basement, and all of a sudden, almost all of us got the feeling that somebody who was supposed to be there was missing. We couldn't figure out who it would be, and we couldn't think of anybody who we might have mistakenly expected to be there with us, but for some reason, at the exact same moment, we all felt like somebody who was supposed to be there, and who we'd all known for quite a while, had suddenly disappeared. We never could figure out anybody we might have been thinking of, and eventually we just brushed it off, but it genuinely felt like somebody in our friend group had completely vanished from existence, and our memory of them was mostly wiped at the same time, leaving just that trace feeling that someone was missing. Redditor 9. Me randomly thinking of a song and someone sings it. Also me thinking about something and someone mentions the exact same thing. Redditor 10. Not really scary at all, but pretty confusing and a bit funny when I think back to it. It was probably the only glitch I had so far in my life. So me and a close friend were having a video chat together, and my friend showed me their new VR headset. Then a day or two later when I talked to them about the headset, they ended up being really damn confused and said that they never even had a VR headset in the first place. Even when I said that I remembered the moment crystal clear. I don't know how the duck that happened, but maybe it might have been a dream I've mistaken for reality? No clue. Redditor 11. I was driving home from work. I was almost home and found myself behind a drunk driver. I tried to get close enough to get the plate number so I could call 911 but couldn't. All of a sudden I realized I had missed my exit. I took the next exit but somehow thought I was going the wrong way. I eventually got straightened out and headed toward home. The road I was on wasn't familiar but I knew it was the right road. I came to the intersection I needed to turn on and breathed a sigh of relief until I started down the road toward home. Buildings that should have been there weren't. The hotels, the fast food restaurants, the convenience stores were all gone. The street lights were gone. All there was the fluorescent yellow lines down the middle of the road. I shook the entire drive, and as soon as I pulled in the driveway and got in the house, I broke down crying as I told my husband and mother-in-law what I had just experienced. I don't know now, nor will I ever know what happened that night, but I hope it never happens again. Redditor 12, I was biking around downtown New Orleans, either the lower quarter or Marigny. I wasn't checking street signs and was almost hit by a car running a stop sign. I nearly fell off my bike while stopping, and I stayed stopped for a second to calm down. Then I realized I was being watched by a small group of people standing on a porch on the corner. None of them spoke, just looked at me. All of their eyes did the glowing in dim lighting thing, like a cat or dog's eyes do. Human eyes aren't supposed to do that. I felt like I was about to get eaten for disturbing them. I've never biked so fast trying to get out of there. Redditor 13, when my brother was around 3 or 4 years old, he got his little finger stuck in the bike's gears between the chain and the gears and almost had it amputated. Thankfully the doctors were able to put it back in place, but he has no scars on his little finger, nothing. Not a single line. No traces that it was ever cut. Instead, I have a huge scar on my little finger and I have no clue of how I got it. Redditor 14, one time when I was pretty young I saw my dad in the hallway and I wanted to ask him a question, so I followed him to his room and he turned to a dead-end path. Then I blinked and he just disappeared. I didn't know what I saw, so I assumed I imagined it and it never happened. I went to the kitchen to ask him my question, but before I could he told me he tried to follow me upstairs to tell me something and I vanished in front of his eyes. We still have no clue what happened and don't really mention it ever. Redditor 15, not scary, but jarring a little bit. I have deja vu multiple times about one thing everything and it is driving me insane. Redditor 16, a few years ago, when I was still drinking really heavily, I would have a lot of glitch in the matrix experiences that I usually chalked up to some kind of partial seizure. I have epilepsy. I would see people as other people, hallucinate entire interactions, etc. But the scariest and weirdest one was when my teacher wrote a word on the whiteboard and said this word means. I wrote the word and then, it's like time repeated but only for a half a second. The word wasn't on the board anymore, the word wasn't on my paper, and then he wrote the exact same word, and said this word means in the exact same way he just had, a second before. He hadn't erased the word, he never erased his board until the end of class, and his eraser was sitting on his desk 5 feet away. It was just like time had slipped back a bit. I chalked it up, again, as a weird partial or focal seizure, but it still bothers me. How can a seizure do that? And if it does, how does that work? How can a seizure make time go back? Redditor 17, not a really big one or anything too interesting, but I recently got blazed as heck with a friend and we were just sitting in a park, zoned out. I randomly start building up on a high note I sing a lot and basically wanted to improvise a cool melody part I just thought of. I kid you not, my friend started doing the exact same thing at the exact same time and she harmonized with my melody perfectly. Afterwards we just looked at each other and said, that was really weird but really cool. We never sang together before, so it's not like some experience was already there. Redditor 18, not the scariest, but by far the most recent. I literally just watched the part in Matrix 1 He is the One and saw this post immediately when hopping on Reddit. So, a glitch in the Matrix, Redditor 19, I have a mole that has gone from the lower right side of my back to the lower left and whenever I think about it I feel I'm going to have some sort of crisis. I had believed in the Matrix theory as a sort of why not, never know but did not in a full, absolute belief. One day 3 years ago about noticed the mole was now on my left side and I'm like what the actual fuck. I actually like the mole, it's the only one I have that I'm aware of and it's tiny and cute so I knew what it looked like and where it was. I am very familiar with the bastard. All of a sudden I notice one day it's on the wrong side. I can't make sense of it, but it freaks me the heck out. I had this thing my whole life, and suddenly after 27 years it's changed sides. Duck that. Redditor 20, I couldn't recognize myself in the mirror for a few seconds. It was late at night and I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror and thought, who's that and why are they in the bathroom? It wasn't until I moved my hand and my reflection did the same that I realized it was me. It only lasted for maybe 5 seconds, so I was probably just really tired. Redditor 21, I guess it wasn't scary, but I had a dream about stuffed animals. Woke up to find my childhood stuffed bear that I knew for a fact was hurried very far under my bed. No clue how it got there. Redditor 22, lost my wireless mouse a few weeks ago and couldn't find it for days. I looked everywhere, moved my bedroom furniture, last place I had it was in my bedroom, even took all my bedroom garbage out the can and searched through all of it. This has happened before as it is wireless, so I chalked it up to I'll find it eventually. I was bringing garbage out and transferred my bedroom garbage to an empty box, and while carrying it out I heard a plonk. Looked down, and it was my missing mouse. From the garbage I searched through. From a box that hadn't been in my bedroom. Redditor 23, when I was a kid I have a very vivid memory of looking out my window in my room to the backyard. For a split second I saw a little Native American girl next to a totem pole just waving and smiling at me, but obviously transparent. I swear I went and told my mom and made a big fuss about it. Thing is, about a month later, my uncle got me the same damn totem pole miniature and my mom doesn't even slightly remember me ever talking about it ever. Though that just might be her memory. Redditor 24, reposting my story so you may have seen this before. I once slid into a town that didn't exist. When I lived in SC, my parents lived in Western PA, so I'd drive up occasionally. One day I left from my friend's house in Asheville, North Carolina and started heading north. For some reason I didn't get gas before I left, and after a bit I'm running very, very low. I'm in Tennessee at the moment hoping to see a sign for gas. Nothing for a while. Then I see Chevron on a sign and get off. I come into this small town. As I start down the main street to the gas station, I get a very weird feeling. As I slowly move through, I notice the town is empty. No one anywhere, no cars moving around. A few blocks and I see the gas station and I pull in. The place looks like it's not been open in decades. Everything is covered in dust. I decide not to stick around and start to pull forward, never even turning off my car. As I leave the station, a large black object runs out from the side of the building. Like Cujo-sized dog. I pass through it. There is a thump, but not in the same way of running over, like passing through a jello. Soft. I hit the brakes but see nothing. My mirrors. Feeling gets stronger, like it wants me to get out of the car, but if I did bad things would happen. Took off, went back to the highway, next exit a big casino and all sorts of things. Get gas, move on. Weird, but it gets weirder. I've tried to find the town on Google Maps. I cannot. I found the casino and truck stop, but the town before it and the exit is laid out different. Not sure what happened, if I slid into an alternate world, or the past, or what. Redditor 25. I get the feeling that most of the posts here are dreams people had that they're remembering as happening to them in real life. Redditor 26, when I can't rest in my sleep without thinking about that day's week's events. Basically like I'm a laptop, I've been plugged into charge, I'm in sleep mode, but it's the same fucking screensaver rotation just going on and on without the me being powered off. Redditor 27, I have one I thought might be ghosts when I was younger but now believe it was a glitch in the Matrix. Long story short, when I was young I used to go on ghost hunts with a couple friends. One day we decided to go check out a cemetery that was reportedly haunted. My two friends rode together, I went by myself. Now, this wasn't a large prominent cemetery, but a small town, out in the middle of nowhere kind of place. We couldn't even find a reliable address. All we knew was the road the cemetery was on. I tried for a while to find it myself, but ended up getting lost deep on swampy back road. Frustrated, and a little creeped out, I simply put the road not the address into my GPS. So I'm driving for about 20 minutes until I finally turn onto the right road, the navigation ends, and I drive another mile or so, when all of a sudden my GPS says turn left. I figure, what the hell, I'm lost anyways, why not? So I turn onto the small dirt driveway and lo and behold, there's the cemetery and my friend's car. I never had the address, never entered it or anything, yet somehow it lead me right where I wanted to be. It's not a bad or scary thing by any means, but it sure did creep me out on a night all about ghosts, and I still can't explain it to this day. Redditor 28, I grew up living with my brother. There are so many memories where he is nowhere. Redditor 29, a constellation that points south was pointing north. I'm not mistaken. I know these stars, I even use them to know if I'm heading the right way, and they weren't pointing where they were supposed to. Redditor 30, I had this real spooky experience. I was on the family farm. As usual, I cleaned my boots and put them on before going to pick fruit. All of a sudden I felt something slimy along my foot in my boot. Curious, I took off my boot to see dog shit covered my heel area. Where did this shit come from? I cleaned my boot before putting it on and no dogs had come near me. I contemplate this event every now and then. Redditor 31, I don't know if this would be considered scary, but it was extremely weird to me at the time. I live in a major city and was driving down the freeway with a Volkswagen Bug in front of me, one of the older models. I turned my head away for a minute and looked back. There was a Bug the exact same color, but much newer in front of me, and the one that was there was like 3 cars ahead. For them to move up that far in that much traffic seemed very unlikely. It genuinely weirded me out, and I still think about it. Redditor 32, most of these things can be explained by people experiencing complex partial seizures. Source, I am a fake doctor. Redditor 33, I was in high school, walking from one class to another when out of nowhere I was gripped with this intense feeling of dread mixed with deja vu. It felt like I was in a long deja vu, and I knew that the ending of the deja vu was going to be something horrible happening. I was looking around and trying to see something new to break the feeling, but everywhere I looked just made me feel like I'd seen it before. I was trying to keep it together, but the feeling was making me very uneasy. I arrived at the classroom and found that it was empty. I checked my watch and saw it was 4 p.m., time to go home. I checked my backpack and there were books in there for my 4th period I would have had to take out of my locker on the way there, but I don't remember doing it. I opened the tiny notepad I always take notes in, and sure enough, there were a few notes in there for that same day, in my handwriting. Thinking for a moment about the route I had taken, I realized I had left the classroom I was in now and walked a circle around the library before walking back. I had no memory of having been to 4th period or of my real walk from my 3rd period class. In my memory, I remember leaving 3rd period and being struck with the feeling on my way to 4th. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pull a single memory out of my head for 4th period that day. Nothing like that had ever happened to me before and hasn't happened since. I asked the teacher if I had been there the day before and he said yes. Redditor 34, a few years back, my dad and I got my mom a Dutch oven for Mother's Day. The thing is, we get it around February. Mother's Day comes and goes without the blink of an eye. A few months later my mom is talking about wanting to make a recipe, but she can't because she doesn't have a Dutch oven. My dad and I both turned and looked confused and tried telling her we got her one. She denied it repeatedly, so we searched everywhere, basement to attic. There was no Dutch oven anywhere. My dad and both clearly remember getting it and bringing it home, but it just disappeared. Redditor 35, probably just a weird mental thing, but definitely had the same conversation with someone twice in a row and they had no clue. Redditor 36, clothes on a chair slowly turn into a monster. Redditor 37, no really scary moments. Just weird ones. I tend to just roll with it. The most recent one was this morning. I wear an apron when I cook. My apron hangs in the kitchen on a nail to the left of the doorway leading to the bathroom. After breakfast, I remember putting the apron back on the left nail specifically because it fell off once and I had to put it back up on the nail again. I then went to the living room to watch TV. Maybe an hour or two later I got up and went to the kitchen again and my apron was hanging on one of the nails just center above the doorway so that my apron hangs in the doorway. It was a bit surprising. I didn't notice it until I almost walked into it. I moved it back to the left nail, but weird. Redditor 38, so I think it's just my brain taking a second to process my dreams, or just a really good internal timer. but every morning I'll hit snooze several times and I'll have different dreams, but the second before my alarm goes off I'll somehow know it in the dream. Like I'll be talking to someone and they'll stop and say something like, you know you have to go now, and then I'll wake up to my alarm blaring. Redditor 39, I was in the Argos store in New Oxford Street in London. I filled out an order slip, gave it to the cashier, paid for it and was given my receipt with the order number on it. I turned round to wait for my order, and before I had got to the pickup counter my order was ready. The stock is kept in a basement level and it comes up in dumbwaiter type lifts elevators. This takes time. There was no possible way my order could have been ready to pick up in the couple of seconds it took me to turn round and start walking towards the pickup point. Redditor 40, there have been several times in my life when I have woken up out of a dead sleep with a terrible feeling something bad is going to happen to someone in my intimate circle. Within a week something always does. Big stuff too, like heart attack, car accident, or death. It's freaky. When it happens I usually will wake my husband to check on him and call my dad, even if it's 3 a.m. They have both seen it in action enough to take it seriously. Redditor 41, I had a dream in 10th grade about dropping a bunch of weight on my head while competition weightlifting and dying. In my senior year of high school I about did it, but remembered what happened and luckily prevented my dream from becoming reality. And yes, I know that's more of a de-shape-vo moment than a glitch in the matrix. Redditor 42, used to work at a job as a team lead, and part of what you were expected to do was basically leave a note for the incoming team lead summarizing any issues you had during your shift and the highlights of what they should expect for their shift. Because most of us were friends, we'd add some stupid stuff to the note, a clip to a video, a joke, a song, whatever. AM shift started at 6:30, so I'd wake up at 5 or so, take a shower and get ready and then head into work. This particular morning, I remember being in the shower and for absolutely no reason whatsoever the song Butterfly by Crazy Town is just stuck in my head. Like I've been up for 5 minutes at this point and I'm basically singing this song in the shower and it's come completely out of left field. I don't think I'd heard the song in probably 8-10 years. Anyway, I get to work with the rest of the people working the AM shift and pull up the PM shift TL's note and it's got a link to a YouTube video in it. What's the video of? It's the music video to Butterfly by Crazy Town. I froze for a minute and just kind of stared at the screen in shock, probably had goosebumps and was just like, what the actual fuck? Redditor 43, a friend and I were going to the apartment we shared. It was about 8 p.m. We were driving on a street parallel to a water canal. The moon was visible through the windshield. Right on from of us. It looked very big and nice. We commented about that. Moments later we arrived to our street. We turned left onto a small bridge over the water canal. And what was on front of us? The freaking moon. My friend and I were like, WTF? We both looked to the right. Searching for the moon we just commented about, but it wasn't there. This was exactly when we were on top of the small bridge over the water canal. This was inside the city and there was some traffic. So there were other cars around us. This wasn't very scary. Except we knew it was impossible. Redditor 44, when I was a child 5 or 6 I twice saw the moon in positions that I only later learned was astronomically impossible. As in, very directly to the north, and I live in Canada. The reason why I remembered it as being strange is because my parents always bought educational things, National Geographic, etc., and I had an interest in space. So I knew the moon and how it should act. But at the time couldn't fully understand why its location in the sky was strange, only that it was. Redditor 45, Flight reacts. Redditor 46, the other night I put some buds in my grinder, ground them up, which was quite difficult as it was quite fresh and very tacky. Opened up the grinder and it was empty. Nothing in there. Hadn't opened it after putting the bud in, didn't open it while grinding, just opened the chamber and it was gone. Redditor 47, a couple years ago I was watching TV late at night when a black box appeared on the screen while the shows went on uninterrupted. It didn't bother me at first because I could get rid of it by turning the TV off and on, but later I came back from the bathroom to find that the box had returned, this time with the words "Hello? Can you hear me?" It freaked me out at first, but I was curious to see what it had to say next, so I got rid of the box and waited. A few days later the box came back again while I was alone, and this time with more words. It said, "If you can hear this, meet me outside." I looked outside the window but didn't find anything. The box hasn't shown up since. Redditor 48, I saw this woman twice now. Both times while driving. It happened last year. She drives a red van, a newer model. Anyway, while driving down the street from my house, she had driven past me. Only she didn't have a face. Her head and body were normal. But her face just wasn't there. It was just a white spot where her face would have been. It startled me pretty bad. I asked my sister if she had seen it as well. Unfortunately, she didn't. And so I just chalked it up to a medical mask that needed to cover her face for some reason that I just didn't get a good enough look at. Then a few months later, I see her drive past me again. I tried to see clearly this time. I even slowed down my truck to see better, and I swear there were no seams, no strings to hold the mask on, not even any eye or mouth nose holes. Just a white space on her head. It almost looked indented. Best way I can describe it was when you put on a tight shirt and the skin is trying to pop out. Although I feel even that doesn't express what it looked like. It caught me off guard, cause both times it was in daytime just down the road from my house. Now no one assumes monsters are real, and I feel it's important not to judge, so I just told myself it was a possible burn victim and pushed it far out of my mind. I completely forgot until I read through a few of these. I still don't know what I seen. Redditor 49, threw my trash out the window once, then looked over to discover it in my other hand. Learned my lesson, I guess. Redditor 50, I experienced the same day twice. Redditor 51, I was swimming on the pool of my grandmother's apartment, and then I saw a kid through a window walking without moving his legs. It was so strange and dank that I almost drowned because I was laughing very hard, and when that happens, I lose any concentration on anything. I got out of the pool and turned out that the kid was using an electronic board, the shits that became popular some years ago. Now seriously, a friend had a dream when we were younger where he heard everything that happened to him at some point of another friend's birthday. He had the dream a day or a week before the party. Redditor 52, I had a dream where I was driving through a small town, and on the corner of the street there was a 2-story gray tar-papered house with an exterior staircase. In the kitchen there was a $20 lying in the middle of the floor. The only reason I remember the dream is because several months later, I passed the exact house in a town I've never been to. If I could have entered it, I'm willing to bet that $20 would be exactly where I saw it. This happens a couple of times a year. I dream of a random place or thing, and a few months later, there it is. It's always meaningless, just a random, average thing, but I dreamt the moment months previously. Redditor 53, during a school camp in 5th or 6th grade, me and my entire year group were on a boat and it was raining. While I was on the boat, I noticed I could see something on a mountain but couldn't really make it out. As we got closer to the mountain, I noticed a face on the mountain. I nudged my mate to ask if he could see the face too, and he looked at me like I was crazy, but I literally swear on everything I love I saw a detailed as duck on mountain. Till this day I have no clue WTF it was. Redditor 54, when I was 4 I was playing trains with my great-grandfather that died 3 years before I was born. Redditor 55, once I. Redditor 56, I get a thing in that state between sleep and fully awake, where my eyes are closed but I see, or I guess dream, an image of my room, as if I'm looking through my eyelids. It feels very realistic. Then I fully wake up and open my eyes and everything is slightly different. There's now clothes strewn about or cupboards open. Not necessarily scary but real freaky, leaving entering Matrix feel. Redditor 57, I lost several hours one day. I looked at the clock around noon. After what felt like an hour, I looked out the window and it was dusk. Then I looked at the clock and it was 7:10 p.m. I still remember the very weird feeling I got when I realized what time it was. It literally felt like only an hour had passed. I have thought about that moment a ton of times and still have no clue what happened. Redditor 58, one time I kept seeing the same question on Ask Reddit over and over again as if no one and everyone was reading them. Redditor 59, one of my earliest and vaguest memories is waking up from a really strange dream. I don't remember the dream exactly. It was something like my memories up until that point had flashed before my eyes. Like all the experiences I had had as a baby and growing older until that moment. The part I remember most was waking up, climbing out of bed and looking down at myself and thinking I am 4. I am me. It was like the first time I'd ever noticed. It freaked me out, and I ran to my parents in the living room. I don't know though, I might have been mixing up dreams or making things up as a kid, it's so fuzzy and such a long time ago. Still stuck with me though, whatever it was. Redditor 60, dreamt I was in a green car taking a sharp turn on a cliff and broke the barrier. Somehow in mid-air I turned the car and landed back on the road instead of impending doom. The adrenaline from the dream woke me up. I spoke to no one about it. About a week later, in the middle of small talk with my mom, she says she dreamed she was in a green car with me and I drove off a cliff but managed to turn the car in mid-air and land back on the road. She was very proud.